to my yard for a hot minute? Go back to my yard. Somebody say weed theology.
Weed theology.
It's in my yard, you understand? And I couldn't get in my yard for about a month and a half. And one of my chaps, my chap that does the yard work, you see. I got a couple of chaps. One just want to kick people. And the other one want to run through people. So the one that want to run through people, he didn't want to work in my yard. So his leg is messed up. We haven't been in the yard in about a month and a half. I got we got the winter grass in, so it don't grow too fast. But I started examining my yard and I started seeing weeds. So I went in my backyard, right? And in my backyard, I don't have a sprinkler system, none of that. What do you call this thing? A drip system. I don't have a drip system in my backyard, on the side. So I went and looked on the backside. And the guy said, he says, look at the weed. And I looked at the weed. And the Lord was telling me, he says, how much rain has there been? I said, God, it's been a little while since it rained last. Been a little while. Amen. And he said, look at the weed. So I looked at the weed. Then I started looking around. On the side of my yard, I had a weed farm. Weeds everywhere, man. I'm just looking at all these weeds. So God asked me something profound. He said, where's the grass? I said, I don't know, God. I'm like, that was kind of had me on the deep tip right there. So I don't know. He said, title this message, I Will. I said, yes, Lord, I will. And I said, why you say that, Lord? He said, look at the weeds. So I looked at the weeds, and he says, same soil all the way around, isn't it? I said, yes, Lord, it's the same soil. He said, where's the grass? I said, oh, I don't know, Lord. So he said, look at the weeds. And I said, yes, Lord. I said, I see all the weeds. I said, all kind of weeds. And I said, he said, look at them. He said, you see the weeds hiding under the bushes? He said, camouflage. He said, you see these weeds right here? He said, they even look like plants because they want to fool you, but they're weeds. He said, look at the weeds. He said, look, son, look at the parched ground here. Look at the soil. And the ground was all cracked up and it was all parched because it's been so dry. He said, look at the cracked soil. Look at the parched ground. He said, how is it that I've got seeds blowing all the time? Grass seeds and weeds. How is it that only the weed has the will to grow? Come on. He said, that's my church. He said, you have been sowing my word. It's the same soil. He said, there's some weeds that are still in the church and they're growing strong. Leave them alone. Learn from the weed. I said, yes, Lord. He said, there's some grass that's growing in the church. He said, son, they are constantly asking me, how come you won't wet my soil? How come you won't fertilize me? How come you won't do this? And how come you won't do that? He said, son, my grass is asking me this, and the weeds aren't saying anything. He said the weeds have enough sense to know that if they will push their way through the worst kind of condition. They will push their way. Even if there's not a lot of water, they know how to conserve the water that they're getting. And whether they get a good-hearted message on this Sunday or the Sunday before, nevertheless, they'll take the last time they got a good message and they'll conserve the water because they don't know when another good message is going to come. And they'll hold on to that water and they'll nourish themselves. Hallelujah. And so all that the ground can be dry and the ground can be whatever it needs to be. My weed has enough sense to know I can conserve myself. I can grow up in any kind of condition, no matter how bad it gets, no matter how dry it might seem to be. I'm a weed, and if I will, I'm going to grow. If I will, I'm going to show up, and I'm going to show out. If I will pay attention to the weed that's growing in a dry and parched land will give birth to other weed seeds and mess your whole yard up. Somebody give me praise. He said, the weed and the grass have the same opportunity, but only the weed will take the opportunity. And the grass around and complaining. My grass, who I've chosen, or given a condition to grow in anything. If it doesn't see what it wants to see, it's going to start complaining. It's going to start sitting down. It'll even allow itself to hang its head and die before it's done any kind of work. But the weed, son, pay attention to the weed. The weed doesn't matter how bad it gets. Doesn't matter how dry it gets. Doesn't matter how many people pay attention to it. Doesn't matter when the last time it got fertilized. Doesn't matter what anybody's saying about it. The weed has a will to live. And it refuses to die. And it looks at its condition. And it tells its condition, I'm the master over my condition. I'm the master. I control my growth process. I'm the master. And you can't tell me to live. And you can't tell me to die. Because my Creator made me uniquely, marvelously made. And I can show up in the worst place. I can hide myself. And you won't see me. But I'm still a weed. And I still got my own glory. And I can teach you something.